Boom, let's do it. A fun one today, guys. We get to launch another podcast. Help launch one. It's kind of already launched, actually, and I want you guys to go and check it out. This is the Teach the Children podcast for the Teach the Children ministry. Let me read something first from Psalm 78, verses 3 and 4. It says this. Let me do 4. How about that? We will not hide them from our children, but tell to the coming generation the glorious deeds of Yahweh and his might and the wonders that he has done. Okay, so now this is in the context of God opening his mouth and revealing things that we wouldn't know otherwise, such as who he is, what he does, how he loves us, all of these things. So if you back up, it's a kind of what ended up being a prophecy, really. In verse 2, Jesus refers to this later, or it is referred to on his behalf in Matthew 13, where people are like, hey, how come you speak in parables? Like, nobody understands this stuff. And he did it to fulfill Psalm 78 too. I will open my mouth in a parable. I will utter dark sayings from old, things that we have not heard or known, that our fathers have told us. So wisdom gets passed down through the generations, but we don't always understand it right away, right? Like sometimes it takes a while for this stuff to cook and to simmer, and you got to think back when you're older and be like, oh, that's why my grandpa was always saying blah, blah, blah. And, you know, it's like that old saying, the older I get, the smarter my old man gets. And it's totally true. It's because wisdom is given to us in an investment across the generations, and every generation is responsible for maximizing on that investment. But it takes some time just to straighten out the truths of life and of the universe. So these can seem like dark sayings or parables or whatever. And once you get wisdom, they kind of come alive for you, right? And so then these parables, these dark sayings that may not make sense right away, verse 4 again, we will not hide them from their children. So this is our children's children, right? We will not hide them from their children, but tell to the coming generation the glorious deeds of Yahweh and his might and the wonders that he has done. That is the job. We clear on this, guys? That's the job. So we're always saying that the home is the primary discipleship mechanism, right? So like the church, we exist to make disciples, but the home pre-existed the church. God made it first. It's a longer standing institution, and the church is here as a missions agency to cover the world in the gospel. It's here to support the work of the home and to bless society in the name of Christ, to spread the message and things like that. There's a lot of work that the church has to do. None of this is in place of what the home is here for. The home is where salvation is designed to be passed down across the generations. The dinner table is the best discipleship mechanism in the world, period. Better than anything the church could ever do. The dinner table wins. So how do mom and dad grab this opportunity / responsibility and leverage this tool for the sake of their kids' spiritual well-being? And then that's going to include their mental and intellectual development. That's going to include their emotional development. That's going to include their relational skill and what do they call it? EIQ, their emotional IQ. All of that stuff is developed around the table. Not always in a structured manner, sometimes in a structured manner. So today I've got Laura here, who is basically not launching. She has launched a ministry that is just equipping parents, and specifically, I think, homeschool parents to really be the best we can be at what we do. No parent is ever going to feel adequate for the task in front of us because we're not. Good luck. But yet, God has entrusted this to us, and he has not left us without resources. A lot of those resources come from the community, so we just want to maximize that. Laura Battles, good to see you, buddy.
Thanks.
I am really glad that you're here, and I'm really glad that you're doing what you're doing. So tell us about, first I want to hear about what Teach the Children is all about,
okay.
And then we'll do a real quick, like how we got to where we are with you and things like that, where we're going from here. But most of what we're going to talk about today is going to be just like nuts and bolts. How do we do this as far as discipling our kids in the home? So Teach the Children. What are you doing? What's it all about?
So we are equipping homeschool families to homeschool. So if you need a resource, I'm here to connect you with those resources, whatever that may be. You may come to me and be like, what math program should I use? I can be like, well, here's a bunch of math programs you can use. Oh, how do I do this in my house? Oh, I can help you with that. I mean, not how to, some things, but
Yeah, we can't do your job for you, but man, we can
Correct.
set you up.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's lots of, when you are part of the public school system, they sort of hand feed you a lot of these resources. And so they come to you really easily and you can find them. When you go independent, they all disappear. And you're just sitting there going, how do I do this? And so I was like, well, if I'm struggling to find these resources, I know other families are struggling. So I created Teach the Children to be like, I'll help fill that gap and help families figure out how to get the resources.
Yeah, nice. So one of the things that we're doing here, and this is for, all of our listeners and viewers, one of the things we're doing here, since Laura's got a new podcast, is we're getting all of the screw-ups out of the way on my show so that her show is polished and wonderful. So what I'm going to do is this is my screw-up, not yours, but I'm realizing now the disparity in our voices. So I'm going to move your microphone. So everybody, you can get a lesson in how not to produce a podcast. Don't do this. 1 second. I'm going to put this right up there. Yeah, just right in there. 3 to 4 inches. I'm going to move mine back. Okay,
Nice.
Now I'm not going to be blasting out our audience. They're going to be like, Dustin, shut up. Do enough of that. All right, so that is one of the things that when people get started homeschooling, it's just like, how do you make these decisions? It's like,
Correct.
it's all on me.
It is. It's all on you. There's, in Washington State specifically, as much as we are a nanny state nanny on so much other things with homeschooling, they just let us go free.
Yeah.
And it's great. And we have great lobbyists who help the homeschool community sort of stay free from the government interventions.
Yeah. Oh, and the lefties hate it.
Oh, yeah.
They hate it,
Yeah.
which makes me happy.
Right. So it's good because we have to follow like 3 rules. You follow those 3 rules and everything else is free for us to do. So they give us like 3 boundaries. Don't go do this, this, and this. And the rest of the things are like, you can do that? Yeah.
Yeah.
You can do that? Yeah.
Parent your kids.
Right.
Yeah.
You can teach them Bible. Yeah. You can teach them not Bible. Who cares? Do what you
Yeah,
want.
and you also get to decide what counts for what. So there
Yes.
are times where it's like, we'll get a request like, hey, can your kids show up and help with this? Because
Yeah.
we got an army of children,
Right.
And if they're free in the middle of the day, then people ask
Yeah.
for help, like elderly people or whatever.
Yes.
And so it's like, you know what? Actually, if you can stand back and show him and like tell him how to fix that while he's doing it, that's occupational ed.
Yep.
Homeschool.
Yep.
We're always looking at weird,
Yeah.
opportunities to teach
Yeah.
the kids things, and
Well,
it's
like
fun.
after this, we're going to do Meals on Wheels. Every Friday for the last 2 years, we have delivered Meals on Wheels. We have the same clients, and they have seen these senior citizens just fall in love with them. Like they don't care that I'm there. They're like, "Hey, thanks that you delivered this meal, but where's your kids? Like
Yeah.
we want to see your kids." And my kids have learned how to speak to adults, how to interact with adults, and I'm like, "This is homeschooling. Yeah, we're not doing math and arithmetic or."
Yeah.
Writing, but
and
they're
you'll
out
slug
there.
that out Monday through Thursday,
Yeah.
like definitely. But yeah,
Right. Well, they're actually in the lobby right now doing their math and reading.
Case in point, right?
So-
so it's like all right, they can work independently for a little while.
Yep.
You're doing other stuff, like you can.
Yes.
The flexibility of it is
Oh, yeah.
wonderful.
It's great.
Not just for the parents; it benefits the children.
Oh, 100%. And they get to see that there's more out there than just them. They're like, Mom, these people are only going to get a meal from us today. What do they eat the rest of the day? And I'm like, I don't know.
I'm really glad you're wrestling with that question.
Yeah. I'm like, but we're here to serve. The Bible has called us to serve and take care of the elderly. And so we're going to do it. And they're like, oh. But it's really funny because they also see, unfortunately, the other side where people have passed away on our route. And then they get
Oh.
to see Mom cry in the car because I'm like, I've been serving this lady meals for 2 years and now she's not here. And they're like, it's okay, Mom. And I'm like, I know, but that's just sad.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I know this is a messed up story, but one of my kids saw his first dead body on a homeschool. I was like, he was like, "Hey, Dad, can I go with you to this thing?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you need to learn this." And he was
Yeah.
getting old enough to.
Yeah.
So somebody was about to pass away,
Okay.
and things like that. And I'm like, "Okay, we're gonna go and comfort the family, right?" And it wasn't. I mean, I probably would have been stretched to find a category of schooling that fit
Right.
into, but it's like community service maybe. So I'm like, all right, come on. He was 10 at the time.
Oh.
And so we walk in the room to see the person that's about to, that's about to pass away from cancer. And I'm looking at her and I'm like, yeah, I think she's dead. But there was a fan blowing on her, right? And so her shirt was moving because of the fan, so I couldn't tell if she was breathing or not. And so we had to go through that whole thing, and he was there, and he saw the whole thing.
okay.
And then we went out and comforted the family and broke the
Right.
news to him and said, guys, here's what's going to happen next, and boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom. And there was one of the granddaughters was walking around. She's an adult, and she was walking around just kind of like not frantic, but she just lost her grandma. You know? Well, in this case, she just lost her mom, and so she was walking around just kind of like trying to process it, almost freaking out, not quite. And my boy at 10 years old, he's just watching her like this, just go back and forth, and he goes, "Do you need a hug?" And she stopped and she looked at him and she goes, "Yeah." And she gave him a hug. She was maybe 30 at the time. He was 10. And she kind of held on for a minute, you know? Yeah. And she's really short, so they were the same height. And, looking back on that, it's like, okay, that was whatever it was, 10 o'clock on a Wednesday.
Right.
You know? He would have been in a math class, which, I mean, there's nothing wrong with a math class, right? But the freedom to be able to take advantage of life experiences like that and make it part of the school day, huge. I'll shut up now.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's part of the flexibility in homeschooling is that I get to teach my kids real world experiences. And people may say, "Oh, they're not on par, or they're behind or whatever." Who are they behind? What standards are they behind? Don't get me into that whole standard behind thing. But also, we're teaching them real life stuff. There's more to the world than being able to add and subtract.
And stand in line. Yeah. Somebody said that to my wife once. They said, but if they don't go to public school, where are they going to learn to stand in line? And she was just looking at him like, she's nicer than me, right? So she's looking at him like, I don't know how to answer something that stupid. Like at the bank, they'll learn to stand in line at the bank,
But you're also like, when do you stand in line? Okay.
Whatever, man. Yeah. So there's also this thing about children being receptive more at some parts of the day than others. And there's like between basically breakfast and after lunch, right? That's when their brain is maximum sponginess. And it just seems like whoever has them at that point of the day is going to be the biggest influence in their life, right? And if that can be mom, whew.
Yeah. Or dad. Some dads are highly involved, and that's awesome. I love it when dads get to be more involved.
Yeah, really need to be. And so like your husband, he's got a job where he's busy, he works a lot, but it's also, if I understand right, it's flexible, right? Like he can move things around and be certain places at certain times. Yeah. So you get creative with stuff like that.
He used to do, it was great, like Sunday science. So after church, we would come home and I would like go do something else, whatever, clean or something. And he would do science experiments with them. And I'd come out and they were like all around the kitchen table having a blast.
That's awesome.
Yeah. He has to work some Sundays now, but there for a while, it was like, "Oh, what are you guys doing?" "Oh, we're trying to figure out who can hear faster. If you can clap and hear faster, if I can yell and hear faster." Or,
whoa.
It was like all these cool things and they were climbing all over him. And I was like, I'm just going to let you go. Like, I'm just going to walk back into the back room and continue doing mom things because the kids need this.
Because that's school and that's dad.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. And Chris does not, my husband's Chris, so he does not like to read out loud. Like, it's not his thing. So I take over all the reading and he does all those fun things. And he does a lot of the like outside. The kids are always like, "Can we play catch?" And I'm like, "PE, go."
Right. Yep. Hey, looks like a homeschool opportunity. Yes, you can go play catch. Yeah. So then why did you start the children or teach the children? Because at some point this was like, okay, we got to do this thing. Yes. So give us a short version of what problem this is solving.
Well, I just felt how do I put this? It kept coming to my mind. So I was reading Deuteronomy, I think chapter 6, like I read last week in my podcast. If you're going out and watching Teach the Children TC podcast, I read Deuteronomy 6 where you're supposed to teach your children. And so I kept coming across that Bible verse. And then I'd go to your Sunday sermons and it was like, you guys need to teach your children. You need to pass this on and all these things. And I kept feeling like, okay, no one's doing this in the Tri-Cities. I need to get this resource out there. So eventually I just told my husband, I was like, what if I do a convention? Like I do a homeschool convention. I'll just have some books out there. People can peruse and see all the curriculums and maybe I'll have like a few vendors. And he was like, okay, that sounds great. So we started little by little and then it just exploded. I worked with another homeschool mom and it just went, the first homeschool convention went crazy. And I was like, what just happened?
Yeah, you guys are finding the biggest church buildings in town and maxing them out.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was crazy. It didn't help that the price that year was really low. And it was the first one since, 2020. So, but it was nuts. And so people were like, can you do this again? And I was like, sure, because I have nothing else on my plate to do. But it was one of those things that God was saying, do this. And if you don't, it's disobedience. So I just was like, okay, I'm going to do it. And you know how I think I've heard this a couple times. You don't know exactly where you're going to go, but God says go this direction. And then you go that direction and he sort of helps narrow out where you're supposed to go. And that's pretty much what I did because I didn't really know where I was going with this. So after the convention, people were like, can you offer these other things? And I was like, I think I can do that. And so little by little, it's sort of shaped to where now Teach the Children is providing like homeschool classes, some classes like how to homeschool. We're doing some kid events coming up, all those kind of things just to help the homeschool community come together. So I don't care if you go to church, don't go to church. This is just for you to get the resources you need to homeschool your kids.
Well, that's a really good point because in churches, the homeschool movement, I guess you would call it, I don't know, it's pretty robust, right?
Yes.
And so, but that can make it feel like this is just, this is just a church thing, like a ministry of the church. Yeah, look, there's a reason it caught on in the church. Like, I get that. We've got these commands from God, and this is one way that we can obey them very well.
Yes.
But honestly, like, whatever you believe, your kids need to be taken care of by mom and dad, right?
Correct.
Now, we want everybody to believe the gospel. Like, hear me on this. We want everybody to follow Christ, but we don't get to make that decision for you, right? And so, regardless of what decision you make there, we also want to be able to, like, help our neighbors, like we've got a community here and we need to lean on each other. So this isn't, there aren't boundaries of faith around this, even though there's general patterns to who's being involved at this point.
I mean, you can look, the statistics are out there. People who are, have a better family core unit, their kids do better in life, especially if they have a stable mom and a dad, they're all together. It does better. I'm not saying you have to have a mom. I mean, like, that core unit, but if you have even mom taking care of the kids better, your kids are going to do better later in life.
Yeah, so well, we got single moms in our co-op here, in the Braveheart co-op.
Yeah,
and it's like that is part of what's, because there's not a dad in the picture. That is part of what's providing the structure that mom can kind of lean on. Like the community can't replace dad, but there are some elements that we can come in and help with here, and we can come in and help with here.
Yeah. So that's where Teach the Children's at right now. So we're just doing some classes, the convention. I'm having a homeschool competition day, which is going to be fun for all the kids. So they're going to come in on June 4th to First Baptist Church in Richland, and they can do a speech competition, science fair, and do a competition with chess and checkers.
Whoa, check it out. All right.
And then anybody in the homeschool community can come in and partake of it. So
Very
they can
cool.
have all these like high school kids competing against other high school kids. And then at the end, there might be a special treat. It's going to be June.
Maybe. Yeah. Okay. So then when we talk about, let's get down to the nitty gritty. When we talk about discipleship in the home, let's talk less about academic education for a second, more about Bible education, spiritual formation, discipleship. All right. So plan A, let's say that just the easiest thing to grab onto is family devotions. How do you start discipling your kids? Well, let's start with family devotions. Okay. So let me get your take on, when do you start this? Because you're probably not going to do this when baby is 6 weeks old, right? Yeah. So as far as just, we'll get into the how, but the when do you start a family Bible study? What's your take on that?
I say the earlier the better. I mean, start a routine. So if you, so like with us, our family routine was always bath, a book, and bed. So then it went from a bath, a book, a bed to being like a bath, a Bible time, a book, and a bed. And now it has become sometimes a bath, depends on the day. The oldest one is getting into, you have to bath every day.
Yep.
And then we come around the couch and we read a book out of the book in the curriculum we have to read, and then go to bed. In the morning, though, I set aside that time for our family devotion. So right after breakfast, we come to the table and we do that before anything else in the day. I'm just like, I know that if you don't do a Bible time, if you do a Bible time, your day is not going to be perfect. I feel like it sets us up so much better for the whole day if I sit and we do a Bible time together as me and the kids. Mm-hmm. And Chris sometimes is there and sometimes he's not because he's off at work, but I know he does his own at his office. Mm-hmm. So, but that's how I say the earlier the better. Get it done. Get that routine going. I mean, you can't, if you start later in life, definitely just start at any point, but start it early.
Yeah. And I find that a lot of people get hung up on, they want their kids to understand everything and they feel like their kids can't understand everything. So what's your kind of guideline on giving them stuff that is maybe a little much for them or too complicated for them? Like, and how do you, how do you make it age appropriate, but also introduce these massive truths to kids?
So we started just by reading. So our curriculum that we were using was just, it would give us Bible passages to read. So the kids would read some and I would read others. And I was like, they're just reading it. They don't understand it, but it's getting into their hearts. So they're at least being exposed to it. And then it started being like, I think you gave me a catechism here at church, and we started doing that and memorizing that. And that has led to more questions because then we read the Bible passages that go with it. And so they're starting to ask like, well, what about this? Who is our neighbor? What is our neighbor? And we can go back to reading that. And so as they've gotten older, I've tried to dig deeper into the passages. But when they were little, it was just like, let's just read this and just soak in it.
Yep.
And nothing more.
Just shove it in your head. We'll sort it out later.
Yes. And and they do a lot of memorizing. So we do like we've done 5 big passages this year. And I don't even understand all of it. I mean, I'm in my 40s. I don't understand a lot of what is in there.
What do you mean by big passage?
Like we did all of Psalms 19.
Nice.
Yeah. And so we do hand movements with it, and I let them get up and be jumping around. Do I understand everything in Psalms 19? Nope. But it's in their heart. So that way down the road, it's in their heart. And I don't remember why I chose Psalm 19.
Because
but
it's awesome.
Yeah. It just is like, the heavens declare the glory of God. I'm like, yeah, they do. And the hand movements are us like waving in the sky. And I'm like,
well, yeah. And that kind of thing right there is, do they understand the profound nature of that statement? The heavens declare the glory of God, whatever. But that, that shapes what they see when they look at the stars, right? They're seeing this now through a certain lens, and that can take shape and gain more specificity as they get older.
Right. And they're like, we just are doing Hebrews 12, 1 through 13.
Okay.
So,
that'll get you through most of life right there.
Right. And I'm like, you guys, therefore, since you're surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, and they're like, well, what's a cloud of witnesses? And I'm like, people around us. Oh, I'm like, when you go to church or you go around people at co-op, they're the people who are showing you what it's like to be fellow believers in Christ. And they're like, oh. And they're like, oh, okay, that's it. I don't have to go any further with it. We don't have to dissect every single word. I'll wait till they're high schoolers.
Well, yeah, and let them ask, right?
Yeah.
Like the questions they come up with are stuff that I wouldn't have thought to teach them.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I told you that my youngest thought that Jesus had a mullet.
Yeah, I was. I'm not going to be I'm not going to hold back on this. I was a little disappointed in him for that. That was.
But he was like, his logic was, well, Jesus has long hair. Everybody I know who has long hair is either a girl or a mullet. And
Jesus wasn't a girl.
Right.
Ipso facto. Yeah. No.
I was like, straight out of the mouths of 7-year-olds.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, we just did an episode. It hasn't even released yet, but we just did it. The kids here will at church, they'll write questions for the pastor. And so I got a stack of them, and we just did the episode where I answered those. And it was so hard to keep them short and digestible for the kids, right? Because these are some deep questions.
Right.
One girl asked me, this was Margaret, she said, why does God like to make speeches?
Oh.
I'm just like, that's a great question.
Right, he does.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, there's all this stuff. Like, and it was everything from, where was Jesus resurrected to, like, why did he bother getting a job if he was God? I wouldn't have thought to address those things.
I mean, it's a good question.
Yeah, exactly.
Because in those 30 years where we don't know what he's doing, what was he doing? Culturally, probably working.
We assume he was a carpenter like his dad, but yeah, we don't know. So, yeah, I didn't like the one when my kids asked me, they were in the car, they were like, Dad, can God fly? And I'm just like, I don't know how to balance the metaphysical complexity of addressing this question with a 4-year-old or whatever. It's like, yeah, I mean, like in the catechism, God can do all his holy will.
Right.
Sure. God doesn't have a body, so, I don't know.
Or can God walk through walls? Can he just go through walls and buildings?
Yeah. What if the wall is subsumed in God? Oh. Don't say that to a kid. But you can't, because the more we know, the more it's like, oh, let me take you here and here. Right. It's like, why is the sky blue? And 2 hours later, they're like, I just wanted to know why the sky was blue. I didn't need to know about.
Let's go do a science experiment.
Yeah,
in our homeschool, and you can prove. And it's like, no, they just need to know that the light reflects off the water. And it's
right.
blue.
I'll show you the cover of a Pink Floyd album and we'll call it good. Okay. So then in terms of so that's the win, like as early as possible, age appropriate. Now the how, let's say we want to structure some time around a dinner table. Okay. Let's help our listeners here put together a family Bible study or a family devotion around a dinner table. So you do it before the meal or after?
I guess it's up to your family.
Okay. My kids would mutiny if I did it before. They'd be like,
was-
food first. They'd stab me in the throat with a fork.
Right. I was thinking most of them are probably coming to the dinner table hungry.
Probably. Okay. So let's say after. And then who's leading this, mom or dad?
Probably depends on your family structure. So if
Okay.
it's a single mom at home doing homeschool, obviously mom.
Naturally.
When Chris is at home with us and we do it, I let him lead it. I'll probably read the Bible passages because he doesn't like to read out loud, but I let him take over. And I'll interject. I'll be like, oh, I read this, and try to, make it a little bit more homeschooly, which then the kids are like, Mom. And I'm like, you have to keep learning all the time.
Yep.
But I would say dad probably should lead it.
Yeah.
Let him.
Yeah. He's the spiritual head of the home, right? Like,
Yeah.
have him do his job.
Yeah.
Mom gets a lot more FaceTime with kids generally,
Yes.
right? And so those moments where dad gets to step out and take the lead, they have kind of an outsized impact, I've noticed.
Yeah.
Right. Which is actually discouraging for moms.
Right.
Like, have you ever felt that where it's like dad says one thing and the kids like snap to it? It's like, I've been telling you this all day while
yeah.
he's gone.
Oh, yeah.
That ain't fair.
No. But sometimes it works to my benefit. Like for bedtime, I'm like, it's 8:30, go to bed. And they're like, but, and Chris stands up and he's like, it's bedtime. And I'm like, ha ha.
Can
Daddy
you please
said so.
can you please use dad voice for me on this one? All right, so then let's say dad's going to lead it. Where are you going to go from there? Are you reaching for a Bible, a catechism, a song book? Where are you going to go?
So we do Bible and catechism.
Okay.
And then we also have picked up the ology.
Oh, nice. Okay, actually, let's define our terms here. So we're going to do those two, the catechism and the ology. Can you tell our listeners what a catechism is and how it works?
Well, my understanding of catechism, I don't know exactly what the word means, catechism.
Yeah, it just means teaching.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like a set of questions and responses that directly go back to the Bible. So it's like, I can't remember one of them, but the answer is because the Bible tells me so. And it's like, oh, okay. Can God do anything you want? God can do his holy will. So it's just a question and a response. So that's catechism.
And these are memorized responses that
Right.
we're teaching them.
Yes.
Okay, so real quick, I mean, why is that important for? It seems like kids like this memorized thing of question and memorized answers. Why is that more helpful for kids than it seems? Because we would see that as like boring and rote and whatever, but kids seem to thrive in that. Why do you think that is?
It's structure. Like they just, it's predictable. So I go over the same set of 10 questions every day, and they just know. It sort of gets ingrained in them. So it's like singing the same song every day. I just go, what is this question? I say, son one, what's the question? He answers it. And then we just go through it, and it's just there. They're predictable. It doesn't change. They don't have to guess what the question is. And it's just getting put in their hearts.
Yeah.
I guess.
And they like it.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't expect that.
No.
They like it.
They fight over it. Because some of them, we make like little hand movements. And so, one of them's like the wicked. So they put on like a Wicked Witch hat.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. They fight over, Mom, can I do that question?
When we wrote that catechism for kiddos, we, I was trying to keep them short because sometimes I find the catechism answers are a little bit long. It's like my kids aren't going to memorize the Heidelberg whatever, right? So like I love the Heidelberg catechism, but at the age that our kids were at, it was just too much. So I was trying to pare it down, and some of them you can't pare down. So we ended up making songs out of them. And so now me and my kids, we get to write songs,
Cool.
So we say, hey, what is a church? Well, the answer is a paragraph long.
Right.
So we made a song. A church is an assembly of believers who have been baptized. Woo! And they throw in all the and that was like the first fifth of it, but they memorize the stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
If I found that anything I make fun, so either I put it in a song, or we do funny hand movements, or we say it in weird voices, they love it.
Yeah. Kids learn through play.
Yes. And even my oldest, who likes to think he's starting to get too cool for everything, still loves it. And I can't tell you how many times I've stumbled across him singing a song or saying something, and I'm like, yeah, it sticks.
Yeah. Or all the kids are singing something and you kind of catch him mouthing the words, pretending he's not.
Right. And he tries to look cool over in the corner with all his friends, and I'm like, I see you.
Right.
But
Not going to say anything, but yeah. All right. So you've got the catechism, and then so you're asking them about 10 questions a day, memorized answers, and you move on to the other ones when they've mastered those.
Yep.
Okay. And then the ology.
Yeah. So the ology is this book.
I wish I had one here. It's at home. I don't have it.
Mine is too. I should have brought it. I can send you a picture, or you can take a picture and we can put it out there for people. It's a book, and ology is the study of. So it goes through like the study of God, the study of man, the study of sin, and all the way through the study of, it goes to the end times.
Yeah, it goes through eschatology. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's essentially, I have found that the catechism and the ology match up very well. So we'll be going through some questions in the catechism and they're in the ology. So then I can just be like, remember we did these questions and this expands on it. And so we do like one lesson a day with the ology.
And how is a lesson structured in that?
I read it and then they have a bunch of Bible verses and they all read a Bible verse. So like you have 6 kids. So if there's 6 Bible verses, they each get 1. I have 3 kids. If there's 6 Bible verses, they each get 2. And if there's an odd number, I pick up the odd one.
Yep.
And that's about it. And I do it age appropriate. So some of the passages are like super long. I give that to my older kids who can read a little bit better. The short passages I give to my younger kids.
And then do you have them get their Bibles and bring them to the
Yes.
table? Okay. So they're flipping around. They're getting comfortable with the Bible in their hands.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I don't care what Bible they read. So over the years, we have picked up a bunch of Bibles. My husband and I, he's also a book collector. So he has 1 million books, 1 million Bibles. And
Chris is a book collector?
Oh, yeah.
He's been hiding this from me.
Oh, he loves old books. Yeah. He doesn't always read them, but he likes them. He looks at them. He's like, look at this old book. And I'm like,
Call him.
great. But we have 1 million.
That's how husband hobbies normally are. The wife
Yeah.
is like, that's wonderful, honey.
Yeah. I'm like, what is that book even about? He's like, I don't know, but it looks old. It looks cool. Look at these pages. They're falling apart. And I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah. The old books just smell right. Anyway.
especially from Goodwill.
Yeah. You're going to be like, okay, go do a podcast with Chris. Okay, so the kids are getting their Bibles. You don't care. What do you mean when you say you don't care which Bibles?
So they can pick any Bible and any translation at this point. I'm just trying to get them in the Word of God. So if it's NIV, I don't care if it's ESV, Old King James. I think my daughter has one that's like King James Version.
Nice.
And she just reads it. She's like, I don't even know what these words mean. And she comes to me half the time and she's like, what is this? How do you even say it with the thous and the thus?
Yeah.
And she's like, what is that? I'm like, you'd say you now or they. And she's like, oh, okay. But as long as they're in the Word, I don't care. So they pick up their Bible and they get to read it. And sometimes they all argue over who gets what cool Bible. And my son, my youngest, likes to highlight passages. So if he is reading something and he really likes it, he goes out and he highlights it. And I don't stop him.
Yeah.
I'm like, what does that mean to you? He's like, I don't know. I just like the way it sounded. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay.
Cool, man. So
Whatever.
does he have one Bible that you let him highlight, or is he just like running around with a highlighter, like hitting
They
all
are
the
not
family
allowed
Bibles?
to touch my personal Bible. That's the only Bible off limits. And I think Chris has one that he keeps in his work bag because he takes it to work and does it, and they're not allowed to touch that one.
Yeah.
So there's 2 Bibles. Otherwise, mark them up.
Yep. Playground.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Don't
That's
draw
so cool.
pictures, but
Right. No, that's so cool though. That's such a good idea to have the Bible be their comfort zone.
Yeah.
Like they get ownership. It's hands on.
yep.
Yeah. And there's a way to do that without it becoming casual, because you do there is something special. Like I want them to have some respect for what they're holding in their hands, right? And so you might have to manage that. But that's so cool that it's not like distant and untouchable.
Correct. And they will pick it up and read it. My daughter reads everything, so she'll pick it up sometimes and just read it.
Yeah.
My boys don't because they have to go outside and like run around all the rest of the day.
Yeah. Well, boys.
Right.
So how long does it take, roughly, start to finish, a family Bible study at your house?
Unless we get into a deep conversation, 20 minutes.
Yep.
Not
Okay.
much. Sometimes we'll expand on something. I can't remember what we were talking about the other day, but we got into it with the kids and they were like, we want to know more. So we just kept going. And then about 30, 40 minutes later, I was like, let's wrap this up because you guys are getting a little squirrely.
Yeah, when they start cracking fart jokes and stuff, it's like, okay, this is, and it always goes there eventually, but you're just seeing, especially with boys, right? But you're just seeing how much conversation time you can get until they crack.
Yes. Sometimes I would like to go longer. I'm like, oh, guys, I'm actually been researching this topic or hearing lots of other podcasts about it. I would love to tell you that information. I have to remember, okay, there's 7, 9, and 11. Mm-hmm. It's not going to stick.
Right.
But I also make my son come to your history classes now.
Yeah, and that's an interesting strategy, because when kids sit in on adult Bible studies, or in this case, a church history class or whatever, we are throwing them into something that they're not really going to understand. Correct. I mean, when I'm explaining Apollinarianism on, it's like the adults here, this is an introductory thing for them, right?
I'm like, what?
Yeah, right. And so, so what's the strategy behind throwing them in the deep end before they can really get their bearings?
I just want him to hear. I've told him, I'm 41. I'll just say it, I'm 41. This is the first time I'm hearing it. I'm like, what a gift to be given you at 11. So I don't care if you pick up anything from it. I just want you to be introduced to it. And he's picked stuff up. He came to me the other day. He's like, yeah, remember when Pastor Dustin said there's 28 books in Acts? And I was like, no, I did not remember that. But that's awesome. So he does hear things. So he's picking things up and he's putting in his heart and he's remembering them. So I'm fine with throwing him in the deep end.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a weird kind of compliment that it is to a kid to be included with the adults.
Yeah.
Even if they don't get what's going on, it's like, hey, we respect you enough to invite you into this room, and that makes them want more of it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I told him next year he has to sit in Sunday service with us. And
Nice.
he rolls his eyes a little bit, but I'm also like, well, tough luck.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what happens. I mean, with our kids, we I don't know how often we actually do this. See, I'm always tied to a pulpit, so Emily's managing all of this stuff, and she makes changes on the fly as the kids need.
Right.
But the idea is that, you know, with all these kids, you can kind of take a rotation. So one kid a week or 2 kids a week or whatever are going to sit in the auditorium and actually participate in the whole thing. You know, and to be honest, man, I would. Like, my personal bent would be, let's have no Sunday school classes at all. Let's just do all family stuff, whatever. And I'm kind of torn on it because I also feel like if we have an opportunity to feed kids gospel in comprehensible form, we should grab the opportunity, right? So I kind of I could argue that from both sides.
Yeah.
So what we did in our family was we said, all right, so we've got the Sunday school classes, but those aren't going to last very long. We do cut those off pretty young here, and we want kids in, you know, so that they're not like 18 and they've never been to an actual biblical full body worship service before, right? Because then they're like, this is boring. I'm out of here. I'm going to go to college and get wasted. Right. So, which, you know, is not hyperbole. That's we lose a lot of college freshmen, right? Because I think a lot of it is we haven't acclimated them to it. And so we would take okay, this kid or these 2 kids or whatever, you're in with mom this week, and then you got the other 3 weeks there, you know. And so just kind of splitting the difference on all that stuff, being in with the adults.
Oh, yeah.
You know. And anyway. Okay, so then at some point, you want to hand off what mom and dad have been giving them and feeding them, and you want to hand it off to them so that they own it.
Correct.
This is, I'm guessing, probably more of, in your view, I'm guessing probably more of a gas clutch thing where it's little by little rather than just flipping the switch.
Correct.
So what's the strategy for that?
I don't have one.
Cool.
I'm
Next
not
question.
there yet. That is one of those ones that even I struggle with. So I'm not there yet. I think we're slowly letting it off with my oldest. I don't know where to go with him next. So my thinking is I'll probably ask him to start doing a journal, or he doesn't really like to write. So maybe draw some pictures.
But are you going to work it into the schooling thing? Like you'll have Bible assignments, or are you just going to hey, this is your devotion stuff outside of Bible or outside of school, or what?
This is where I haven't figured this one out yet. And so I was going to be like, what did you do? What are you doing with your kids?
Well, first off, let me just pause and point out, this is where the community needs to lean on each other, right? Like, this is what we're doing here. You guys are seeing in real time, like, hey, maybe a pile of resources is better than somebody just saying, follow this procedure, because one person's kid is not another person's kid, right? So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, in our case, and I'm probably speaking more for Emily than myself here, because she's so, dialed in with their spiritual needs and development. And she's got a lot more face time with them, right? She's home with them right now.
Yes.
So I think the Lord's been really gracious to us in that our older kids, they've either started to take some initiative on their own, or struggled with the fact that they don't want to, which is a good thing. Yeah. It's like, Dad, why don't I know I should be reading my Bible, but I just kind of don't want to. There's other things I'd rather be doing. Why is that? And they feel a little bit guilty. Well, I don't want them to feel guilty.
Right.
I do want them to bring that to me, because that struggle, it's like, hey, welcome to the Christian life, right? And so that's a discipleship opportunity. So I think that as much as I could speak to it right now, which is not much, we're still mid-process on this whole thing. We haven't seen it actually work, but we're seeing signs of progress. I think that if anything that we have done has been used by God to get where we're at, I think it would be just that we've built low pressure trust. They know what they should do, but they don't feel like they're going to get in trouble if they're not doing it. Okay. So they trust us with their questions and struggles or doubts, or even rebellious impulses. They can bring that to us without feeling like they're going to get whooped on. So building trust, and then also setting the norms.
Yeah.
So seeing dad in his chair reading his Bible when you wake up is, if that's normal,
Yep.
that's what you want. That's your idea of what you replicate as you get older. And you know, when kids get older, they want to start branching out on their own. Well, they have some kind of preconceived idea of what that is, and they're going to get that idea from us,
Yeah.
whether positive or negative, right? So I think just Bible being normal
Okay.
and walking around singing doctrinally dense songs,
Yeah.
you know,
Oh, we do that.
is normal. Yeah.
We sing a ton of hymns.
Do you in the house?
Yeah.
Did you have those ones that are like printed up that you put on the wall? There's some company out there. What's it called?
Oh, there's lots of them.
Are they print these things? You can probably find them on Etsy or whatever.
Yeah. I use Happy Hymnody. I think it's so it's called.
Okay.
She does a hymn a month, and she goes into the author and then the hymn, and
It's like a video series.
you can. I think she does do video if you pay for it. I just get her like free PDF document.
Oh, okay.
And so some of those hymns I put on the wall, the ones we really like, that we're
Yeah.
like, ooh, this really resonates with us, or it's really pretty. We put up the wall. They have to be a little bit more upbeat for my boys. The slow ones, my daughter will sing along, but my boys are like, can I go play?
Yeah.
This is like super slow.
And you guys sing them together? Yeah.
Yeah. It's fun.
The
boys-
old
Yeah.
the old saying, the family that prays together stays together.
Yeah.
It's so true on so many levels, because we keep hitting this theme over and over. So I just want to bring it out that while we're having all these interactions, it's not just transferring Bible knowledge into their head. Right. These are also family bonding units,
Yes.
right? And this is one of the reasons that, honestly, and I got to be careful how I say this, it almost doesn't even matter which religion it is. If your family has a shared religious practice, it bonds the family together.
Oh, yeah.
Now, some religions are false and they don't help you past your last breath and you're going to die and go
Right.
to hell. We don't want that. But God created us God created us in such a way that spiritual bonding equals relational bonding.
Right.
Or corporate spiritual activity
Yeah.
equals relational bonding.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you see the differences when the kids are older, right?
Yeah.
Who had family discipleship and who didn't.
Right. And God is going to save how do I say this? You never know who's going to turn to God in the end. I have friends who were like on fire in high school, and now I look like, oh, what happened?
Right.
And then the opposite, people that I was like, that kid, Lord help him. Well, yeah, Lord did help him.
Yep.
I said it one way, but the Lord went through and was like helping him, and he's on fire. He's a preacher somewhere. And I'm thinking like, so sometimes it's like, yeah, your family can do only so much, but then, you're hoping that all those words are in their heart, so that way, when they're older, they take him and they run with them.
Yeah. Well, it's like you can't decide how deep the roots go down, but you can
Right.
determine the quality of the soil.
Right. And like if you're called to homeschool your kid for whatever reason, and you're going to put the Bible in their heart, then you just need to be faithful to do that. If God's saying you need to go home and you homeschool your children and teach them the word, then teach them the word. God will take care of the rest of it. But he's asked you to do this, so you do that.
Yep.
And that's all you can do. Like, you can't determine the outcome. Like, I don't know if my kids will grow up and go to church, but I want to make sure that they've never say, well, my mommy didn't teach me about Jesus.
Yeah.
Nope. Everything in their house, whether I'm doing something positive or negative, they're going to be like, see Jesus. If I mess up, I'm like, hey guys, I'm messed up. I'm sorry. Forgiveness. And they can see that played out at the house.
So our generation was, it was really hammered home to us that people need to make their own decisions, right? I'm not going to, we would hear a lot of things like, I'm not going to push my beliefs on you,
Right.
or, this is private, keep it out of the public sphere. And any kind of what we would now call discipleship was labeled as brainwashing
Yes.
or indoctrination or whatever. So for the millennial parents out there, like in order to give you guys permission to disciple your kids, was our generation right? Obviously, you and I think not.
Right.
But why not? Like, why isn't this all of this stuff about teaching our kids stuff before they're too young, before they're old enough to understand it? That seems like just an indoctrination
Right.
tactic, right?
I hear
so
that.
why is this okay?
I think I even heard it from you or someone else. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I go walking, listen to podcasts. It's the meanest thing we can do to not tell them what we believe. what we believe. Like to let them just flounder around out there and hope they, throw a dart and hit on something. That's not. We want them to.
Cara is jumping in the window and smiling. She's just saying hi, making a cameo. Sorry, go ahead. That's why I'm smiling.
I was like, I'm sure when yeah. there. But I just feel like you need to teach them. Like you need to teach them what you believe. Otherwise, they're going to grow up and be like, I'm going to believe whatever. And my mommy, that was mean. And like you just let them flounder around and hope they get something. So I don't feel like it's indoctrination. I mean, if you look back at the Israelites, they did exactly what we're trying to do now, and no one said anything.
That's even your theme verse, right? Deuteronomy 6.
Yeah, and even the Jewish people, the Jewish religion people today do the same thing. Like they send their children to Jewish schools, they teach them the Torah, and no one says anything about it. But when it's like the Christian belief, oh my gosh, you're indoctrinating. And I'm like, what's different? They're doing it over there.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I wonder how the word indoctrination became negative, because it's like that's what we're transferring doctrine.
Yeah.
Like, why don't we just own it?
Right?
Like, yes, I'm indoctrinating my children.
Yes.
Because I love them. Yeah. I don't know. I think there's an understanding, a misunderstanding of human nature also.
Yeah.
That if, humanity is basically good, so if we don't push too much stuff, they'll probably land in the right spot.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It also goes back to like we're reading the Case for Christ in Faith and can't remember whatever one by Lee Strobel. Mm-hmm. It's like a lot of people still are hung up on like, well, as long as you're good, everybody's going to go to heaven. If you say there's a God at some point, it's okay. You all get there. And I'm like, the kids are like, that's not right. Not everybody gets to go to heaven. Like, but then I'm like, why? So, and we dig into it, but that's not, so I think it's a lot of that thought of, well, I don't have to tell you my beliefs because as long as you're okay, you're not murdering anybody.
Yeah.
You're okay.
Or yeah, with millennials, and I think this is even bigger with the Zoomers, is as long as you're genuine about it.
Yeah.
Right. As long as you really feel like you're searching for God or whatever it is, then you'll be okay. And it's like, we make the intensity of our feelings the measure of holiness.
Right.
Right. Okay. So then what about discipleship through discipline? How do you guys grab that opportunity for steering them towards Christ?
Okay. So I've probably failed my kids on this.
I think every parent would say that, honestly.
I do try to point discipline back to the Bible. Like when they get to be disrespectful, dishonoring, rude to me in their words or their actions, I'm like, take it back to the Bible. What does the Bible say? You need to honor and obey your parents. Okay, well then was that honoring to me? No. Okay, so what do you need to do? I'm sorry, Mom. I shouldn't have said that. And it sort of resets their framework because then I'm like, how could you tell me or approach that situation better? So I try my hardest to not use that because I said so. I try to go back to the Bible. Like you need to be honoring to your parents. You need to be honoring to your brother and sister. Would you want your sister to be talked to by her husband down the road this way? Would you want your brother to be talked to by his wife down the road this way? No. Well then, we need to love them.
Reinforcing principles.
Yes.
Yeah.
But overall, probably fail. They'll probably grow up and have, their own trauma and they'll have to sort through it. And
it's okay. I'll do their counseling. The problem with my kids is I can't do their counseling because I'll be the one that screwed them up. It's like, they're going to be like, oh man, I need so much therapy from having a pastor dad, but I can't afford it. So, hey, I could go to my pastor. That'd be free. Nope. Can't do that. Nope. Yeah.
So I feel like I'm like, oh, that's okay. They'll have their own baggage down the road and they can tell everybody how horrible the upbringing is, and I'll just have to be comfortable with it.
Nobody gets out of childhood without scars. I don't know why. Like God entrusts children to 18-year-olds and 21-year-olds and 25-year-olds. Like He's not expecting this to go swimmingly well all the time. We
were older when we had kids, so we had a little bit more prefrontal cortex development. But still, I'm like.
But you still feel the same way as everybody who had kids at 17.
Oh,
it's like we don't know how to do it. It's like it's okay.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Oh yeah.
Something I'm really big on is that God makes decisions, and God decided that your kids would be your kids and that you would be their parents. And like God makes good decisions. So man, trust yourself. Are you going to get it all right? No. But trust yourself, man. Like have some confidence because the Lord put you in that situation and not somebody else.
Yeah. But I will say, going back to community, I have bounced lots of discipline ideas off of the girls in the co-op. I've been like, how do you address this situation? And if I didn't have that community, I would not necessarily have as many biblical responses to things. So I might have had more worldly responses to handling situations.
There's a lot of wisdom bouncing around that co-op.
God, it's great. Like I can be like, how your kid is this age. are they doing this? How do you handle this? Like, oh, your kid's a little bit older. You went through it. So how do you do this? As opposed to me just going out and reading some book off the shelf and self-help and that not working.
Yeah. And I'm here on Thursdays when the co-op is happening, and I have the same conversations with the moms.
Yeah.
You know, like nobody, just so you guys know, nobody's above asking for advice. I'm the pastor. I'm supposed to be like the one teaching people, but a lot of times I'm like, because these moms, they know my kids, you know, and so sometimes we'll just get into conversations. I'm like, hey, what do you think about this? Or what would you do there? There is so much wisdom locked up in there.
Yeah. We were talking about little kids yesterday, that 7 to 9 age range, which I have 2 in the middle of that. And there, she was, another mom was like, yeah, my kids are doing this. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, that's what happens in the 7 to 9 year old range? Because my kids are doing the same thing. And I just thought it was my kid not being able to regulate things. And they're like, oh no. And I'm looking around at all the other 7 to 9 year olds and I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So find a village, find a community and get with them.
Well, and I remember when somebody told us the kids retest their boundaries every couple of years, like even good kids, right?
Good.
And so like my kid will hit a rebellious streak and it's like, who is this kid? Like this is my compliant one. I would have expected this from that one over there, not this one. And then these moms or other dads or whatever, just being like, all right, hey, take a breath. Here's what's going on.
Right.
And they see not only is this not going to lead to death, but actually it serves a purpose in their overall development, and there's a reason for this, and it's actually a good reason. There's just like, that's where I developed my whole thing about like, okay, so boys need to learn 2 things in order to become good men in this world. They need to learn to make good decisions, and they need to learn to stick by their decisions under opposition. But we always learn those in the wrong order. Okay. And so boys make crappy decisions and we stick by them to the death. Right? And it's like, so when you see that in these boys that are starting to think of themselves as young men, right? And it's just like, why would you do that and then stick with it, right? That's why. It's part of their overall development, and it's actually a good characteristic. It's just you're seeing it on step 2, but you're going to love step 10. Yeah. Right? And so it's just like, breathe, homie. You're all right.
Right.
You don't know that unless the community tells you.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I've even seen it with my kids at home. You know, like, oh, okay, don't do this. Don't do this. And they start doing things, and you're like, oh, it does work out. It just takes forever because it's not on your timeline. But how many of us remember when we were 5, 6, or 7?
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure our parents told us the same exact things.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why my mom says, right, diaper spelled backwards is repaid. It's like she's like, everything you did to me, they're going to do to you.
Oh, yeah. I'm trying to be a little bit more relaxed. Now I've gotten a community around me with some things. I would be like, oh, don't do that. Don't do that. Now I'm like, I'm going to allow it.
Have you developed any like standards or best practices for letting them be wrong for a while? Like experiment with bad ideas that you know are bad ideas, but I don't mean like bad as in harmful, like they're going to die. I just mean like, hey, they're wrong about this. Maybe some problem with their friend, you know, it's like, oh, and then he was all like, psh, and I was all like, whatever. And he's being dumb because, and actually your kid is wrong, but it's like, let's let him flesh these ideas out versus when to jump in and correct them.
I probably should be better at that. I would say that's something especially with my boys, because they fight all the time. So they're always coming to me tattling. So I probably should just let them just go figure it out. Go do it. Let me see what happens.
Yeah.
They might end up full on fighting each other.
Sure.
Which they do anyways. But
yeah, I mean, you're not going to avoid that. Yeah, if teeth start flying out of people's heads, then maybe you got to intervene.
We are in karate, so I will say a few times they have brought out their fighting mitts, and I'm like, whatever, do it outside. Yeah. And they'll come in crying, and I'm like, well, what do you think is going to happen when you get punched?
Yeah. Sucks to start a fight, doesn't it, kiddo?
But I'm like, I'd rather you fight it out at home than out in the street.
Yeah, with somebody who actually loves you.
Right.
Right, who actually doesn't want to hurt you.
Right. You're just a little bit mad at each other. Go fight it out. Come inside. Give a hug. Mom will pick up all the blood.
I can picture I can picture your girl doing that too. She seems like she's got a tough streak.
Oh yeah.
She could probably hang with them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she's in karate too. So.
Well, and they can't hit her back, so she's got that unfair advantage, right?
Oh, they don't care.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
They won't hit another girl. That's a no-no. But when it comes to sister,
it's like,
well, she throws a punch.
All bets are off.
Yeah, she hits hard. So
good for her.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
She's good. I mean, when you have mom in karate too, mom's like, I'm gonna spar with you at karate practice. And I'm like, no, please. And I'm like, no, come here.
Yeah.
It's allowed.
Yeah. All right. So your podcast then, how often, what can people expect? What should they go there for?
I'm hoping the goal, I mean, I've done like one episode.
You're going to do it.
Yeah.
It's going to work.
Every week, once a week. So I released my first one on this Wednesday, so a couple days ago. So every Wednesday, I'm feeling like Wednesday's a good day. I might switch it. Who knows?
There are no rules.
Yeah. There's some sort of weird music that introduces it, and I'm like, I hate this music, but it was free. So Chris was like, that's the one you choose.
Right.
I was like, but I want this cool music. And he's like, that costs more money.
Yeah.
And so you get the free one. So every Wednesday, once a week, I'm going to start I'm going to take this. You're going to put this on Hungry for Wisdom. I'm going to take it and put it on mine as like a mini how-to series.
Yep.
So I'm going to start doing some mini series of how to, and then I'm just going to launch into a bunch of questions that I see all the time on Facebook, the homeschooling Facebook page. Like, what curriculum should I use? How, should I homeschool my 5-year-old? All these different questions, like testing. That's a big one coming up because it's springtime. People are always asking about testing. What laws should I use? What laws are there for homeschooling in Washington? Just some of those big questions. And then I'll get into other ones.
Yeah. So you're doing very practical, how to,
Very practical.
step by step.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Good.
Specifically tailored to Washington State for a lot of them, because that's where we are, Washington. But anybody could use these.
Yeah. So like every state has their own homeschool laws, but
Right.
and there are some differences, but they're not huge differences. Like if you've got a podcast that you're listening to, like a homeschool podcast in Minnesota,
Yeah.
some of it won't apply, or you'll need to check
Yes.
and confirm this or that. But it'll be fine.
For the most part, Washington's pretty lenient on things right now, which
So
is
weird.
great. I mean, it is awesome. But if you go to like New York,
Yeah.
they have horrible homeschooling laws
Washington's not like that on anything except homeschooling.
as of right now. And as of right now, you don't have to homeschool legally until you're 8. So there's this huge push right now. It's the spring to send everybody to kindergarten. Don't. Keep your kid home. You don't even have to send them to kindergarten. I'm not saying don't do anything, but don't send them to kindergarten. Keep your kid at home. They're 5. They don't need to go to school.
Yeah.
A formalized school.
Drag queen story hour at kindergarten.
Yeah.
I don't know. They're starting to back off on that a little bit, I think.
I think so.
Yeah. I think there was enough of
have
a
changed.
pitchfork rebellion.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, it came on quick.
Yep.
Right. And it's starting to subside quickly as far as the DEI stuff and the craziness in the schools. It's, there's been an abrupt kind of halt to a lot of it, but it could change back just as quickly.
Oh,
and
yeah.
all the same forces that put it in place the first time, it's not like it was a different generation and it's died off. That was 2 years ago,
Right.
5 years ago. They're still around and they would love to get it back.
I think the pendulum swung one way and it went the other way. And so now I'm waiting to see where it sort of goes.
I'm hoping that the next generation will be like an expanded version of me and Emily's marriage, because she grew up homeschooled and I grew up public schooled for
Right.
the most part. And so we had these two experiences to compare. And
Yeah.
we were like, we think we're going to do this one because we had a good data set.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that our kids grow up seeing, test scores and social adjustment quotients and things like that, where it's like, okay, we did public school was kind of the thing, the only game in town really,
Right.
for a few generations. Now we've got our parents' generation that raised us like this, and we can compare data here and see the outcomes. I'm hoping that's the way that it goes.
Yeah.
And I don't think that this next generation is as stupid as everybody says they are.
No.
Just because they're wrapped up in their phones and there's these problems with social media, and there are real problems to address. But let's give them some credit, man. These kids are really, really observant.
Yeah.
And so I'm pretty optimistic about. I mean, I spend a lot of time in the homeschool community. These are sharp kids.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm pretty optimistic about where they're going.
Yeah. It's great to see the homeschool kids, especially in our co-op where you have like the little kids up to the bigger kids. And you can see like, okay, if you can keep this going and you keep it going, you keep, feeding into your children. I see those older kids and I think they are great. I mean, I love coming and seeing those older kids, and they're thinkers and they ask questions and they're doers and they're creating things. I mean, they're creating worship songs for us.
Yeah, they're writing their
And-
songs. These are kids I would hire, over most of the millennials that I know,
yeah.
just on character reasons. It's like
Yeah.
we can give them the skills, but we've got, I don't know what, 120 kids running around here on a
yeah.
Thursday or something, and this is a small building, and the biggest problem we have is that sometimes they forget to empty the garbages in the bathrooms. because they use so many paper towels.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what happens with these. I don't know what they do with all of these paper towels, but they use so many paper towels. And it's like, but we're not having the problems. And occasionally there will be a fight on the playground because boys will be boys, right? It's usually involving my kids. But those are fine. Those are actually good opportunities to teach them stuff too. If those are the biggest problems we have with 120 kids, these kids are awesome.
Yeah.
I love these guys.
Right. And see that you guys have one on either side, public school and homeschool. Both my husband and I are both public school.
So you're figuring this out for the first time.
First gen. And we're like, and we come from a family that does all public school. We have public school teachers, public school, I have 2 siblings that are teachers. And so they're always like, why? And I'm like, why would you send them to public school? And no ding on public school. If public school works for your kid and your family, and that's what you have to do, okay.
Sometimes there's not a big option.
Yeah, sometimes you just don't have choices.
Right. And I'll knock on those guys all day long. I will say that there are some families that can be the exception.
Yes.
Right? And we've got some of them here, but let's notice that they're the exception. And I don't want to encourage people to roll the dice just because there are success stories.
Right.
We've got some parents that send their kids to public school and for whatever their reasons are, that wasn't our decision, that was theirs, and their kids are awesome and they are phenomenal parents, right?
Oh yeah. It takes a lot of involvement.
They're the exception.
Yes. Very much the exception.
Well, and maybe a better way to say it would be they're fighting an uphill battle.
Right.
And the fact that they won, they deserve a lot of credit for that.
Correct.
But also, I feel like, and I'm not speaking as like pastor here necessarily. Like, all right, the God's will for you is boom, boom, boom. Like parents have to manage their own homes. I don't have the authority to manage their home. Brother to brother or brother to sister, I would say if we have an opportunity to maximize our child's chances of not falling victim to what so many fall victim to in the public school system, I think we got to take that pretty seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's, this is our mission field. If you have children, you taught them for 5 years. And then if you send them to kindergarten at 5, like, why would you hand over that responsibility? To me, I'm like, everybody's always like, oh, time needs to slow down. And I'm like, I have my kids all the time. Like I have endless time with my kids. I don't say that very often. Yeah, I look back at baby pictures and I'm like, oh, remember when they could barely talk? But then I'm like, I get to see everything. I've taught them to read, to write. And I mean, I get to see their struggles. And so it's a blessing.
Yeah.
Like blessings upon blessings to have them at home.
Yeah. And if you're not afraid of the hard work, right? Because it is. And it is grueling and it never feels like it's working.
You never get thank yous.
Well,
I can very seldomly tell you when after a math lesson, my son comes up to me and goes, thank you for giving me that math lesson. That was the best math lesson I've had today. I don't think I've ever heard that.
I don't think that doesn't happen. That is not a thing.
No. Instead it's I don't want to do the math lesson or I don't want to do this. And I'm like, please go do your math lesson.
Yeah, but there's a reason that Proverbs 31 is written in the future tense with that. It says her children will rise up and bless her,
Right.
Hang in there, mama.
Right. I say that to all the moms. I'm like, we'll get there. You don't know when, but keep forcing that math
community,
lesson.
man. You lock arms, you say, we're going to do this. We'll keep each other on track. Let's go.
Yeah, that's what Bible study is important, not only for your family, but for the community around us.
Yeah.
Like I love coming in and doing symposium, Bible study with the rest of the moms. There's just something that just knits you together.
Mm-hmm.
Man.
Pray together, stay together.
Right?
All right, guys, go check out the Teach the Children podcast. You're going to be on YouTube, all the platforms.
Yep.
All the platforms. Just go, just type it in and check it out. Get resourced. And Laura, we'll have you back. Great to have you here.
Thanks.
Hungry for Wisdom is a ministry of Grace and Truth Community in West Richland, Washington. 1 John 4:19. We love him because he first loved us. If you are enjoying Hungry for Wisdom, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share it. Leave us a 5-star rating if you think we've earned it.